Welcome to the Channel Surfers, where you will hear everything you need to know to become better at your job if you're a channel manager or channel executive, and maybe get a laugh or two out of it. Right? My name is John McCabe. I host the show or co-host the show with my very good friend Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, John, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Jeff, this show was born on Nearbound, right?
Well,
And it's been a while since we actually dedicated a show just to Nearbound. And I think today's probably a good day to really get back into Nearbound, but kind of dissect it a little differently than we did for the first time. So, what do you think about that?
I I think it's perfect, and I think it's perfect timing, right? And Nearbound, we did that great episode with Jared Fuller last year, and
Hmm. Yeah.
and we talk a lot about it. We talk about the undertones and the undercurrent that Nearbound pushes, and I think the timing couldn't be better, right? And if you could tell, you see how I'm dressed, right? Little celebratory for people out there. So the timing may not be exact, but with the U.S. men's hockey team and the women's both winning gold, super excited. So I thought I'd dress in a theme, but I
You're so patriotic.
I know, dude. First of
Mhm.
all, after that game, who was it? Let's be
No,
honest,
I know. I
right?
know.
I mean,
It inspires you. But Jeff, one thing to think about, like the year has gone by where we introduced Nearbound and we had Jared, but think about how many guests we've had where Nearbound has been brought up, right?
correct.
But yeah, I want to talk more about it and specifically around that whole influence piece. And I know you prepared a lot of data on this, so let's get into it. Let's talk
Yeah,
about the
absolutely, man.
future of channel. What is the future of channel? Is it
Well,
sourced or is it source revenue or influence? And I think it's influence.
oh, it's definitely influence, and again, just tying it back to the whole Olympic thing, it's look, Nearbound is about the relationships, right? That
Hmm.
influence comes out of the trust that you build with the vendors, your partners,
Hmm.
with your peers, with the whole ecosystem, right? That's what it
Yep.
comes from. And that's why I
Yep.
said, like for me, just listening to this guy Jack Hughes talk about the brotherhood that was going on, that's what it
Yep.
technically Nearbound is about, creating this brotherhood of helping people, right? Having a common goal and all trying to drive the same thing together, right? So, one of the things that came up through some of these conversations is, that look, Nearbound is not so much a tactic as it is
Hmm.
a way to have a distribution system, and it's based on the people, and it's based on
Yeah.
how you set that up. Uh, you know, as we were talking right before we jumped on, I mean, we've had at least two or three people on our show that are from the, quote unquote, from the trenches, right? And you got guys like Nick Nicholas and Ross. Gosh, I forgot his last name. Um,
Ross Kemp,
thank you.
Mitch
Sorry,
Simon. Yeah.
and Mitch Simon, right? And when you take a step back and you look at these guys, and I know there's some gals out there, we had Jessica Simon on, with Google. What they've been able to create is that relationship and that bond of
Hmm. Hmm.
trust, right? So they
Yeah.
say what they're going to do, and then they do what they're going to say, or
Uh,
do what they said, that kind of thing.
Let me ask the audience a question, and obviously not going to answer right now, but think about it. Would you rather struggle and work hard to find a partner who's going to bring you into an opportunity, um, or would you rather have the influence where you could call up a partner and they could bring you into that opportunity? I mean, I think that's the whole basis of a nearbound and non-nearbound approach. I have struggled in my career trying to knock doors down to get meetings with clients, and if they don't know you, they don't want to introduce you or bring you in and talk to you because they don't really, let's face it, if they don't know you, they don't trust you. When I discovered partners and the influence partners have, it was like an epiphany, right? And building the relationship at the partner level, not necessarily at the client level,
Right.
build it at the partner level so you can have them introduce you in there. And you know what? Guess what? As a sales rep or as a channel manager, your life becomes so much easier, right?
Huge, huge. Well, think about this, right? Everything you just kind of walk through, it's more about, it's a behavior based process, right? Because like you
Mhm.
said, people will buy from people they like, know, and trust, right? And the third part is trust. So how do you
Yeah.
get there? So it is about how, not it's how did this one guy say it? When I was reading it, it's not behavior based. it's behavior based, not campaign based. And what that means is so many people think that you just put together a campaign or a process or a program and let's go, right? Uh,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
has there's more nuances to that, right? It's about you as the person that's driving that and that motion that you're trying to create, right? So, who are you talking to? Who are the people, the problems you're trying to solve?
Yep.
What is the contextual aspect of the information that you're giving them? Is it easy to understand? Is it repeatable? Those types of things. Because people will, again, you kind of push through. Not everybody's just going to go, oh wow, you're selling that, yeah, let's be best friends, let's go, lock arms and run down and close
I
doors.
think I just got a new best friend.
But no, I think I think it's interesting, right? And again, for anybody who hasn't read the book, I would definitely read the
Mhm.
book.
Yeah.
I think Nearbound, like I said, I read it twice, and then I used the third time. It was more about just referencing. But getting back to your question, right? You know, you need to be able to create, or design something that allows for repeated partner-driven trust,
Hmm.
what I
Yep.
call moments, those driven trust moments. And I hate to say it, be memorable, because when those situations come up, you want to make it easy for them to remember that you are the person that can help them solve that problem, number one.
Hmm.
But it is, they're going to come to you because they trust that you're going to deliver. And
Yep.
that's going to take some time, right? That's going to take some calls. It's going to take some demos. It's going to take you showing up. I was
Yep.
talking to an RVP, about a week and a half ago for a large, cybersecurity, OEM. And that's the challenge that they have in their channel right now is, getting people to show up. And I don't mean just doing a chug and a hug, John. I mean
Mm-mm.
showing up and actually having a meaningful conversation and then following up on that. So,
Enablement, strategy,
yeah.
not necessarily account mapping, as Mitch Simon so brilliantly defined for us in his interview. Like, nobody loves account mapping, but if you strategize, if you have weekly touch points, that's what you really need to do to build that influence and keep that mind share that is so valuable, right?
It is. And for people that aren't doing it or trying to figure out how to start doing it or how to start leveraging it, my recommendation would be, start figuring out how you want to build out a trust driven system for yourself, right?
Mhm.
And whether it's, hey, for this month, this quarter, my primary focus is going to be whether, is it going to be a referral? Is it going to be trying to do an integration adoption? Is it going to be
Mhm.
trying to do the co-sell?
Yeah, yeah,
Will Taylor, and hit our show with him about the co-marketing
yep,
really kind of hit home. And if you think about it, that co-marketing is all about putting the information and the message out there to basically confirm what you're trying to do. But you're also building trust when you do that with the partners, because you're showing this repeatability of the message and how it's supposed to flow. So I would just say, for somebody that's thinking about, making a pivot or really leaning into this, start building out a trust driven, hierarchy to how you want to do this. Create that one trust, driven, motion that you're going to push for the quarter, right? Make sure that you're getting aligned with a partner win mentality, right? Getting with the engineering teams, and
yeah,
making sure that they're comfortable, right? Because they're the guys that are going to give the nod to the reps. And then as you're doing that, right, you're going to build out that rhythm, so to speak, right? You're going to build out
yeah.
that muscle memory. We're big golfers, right? Golf is a mental game, but it's a lot of
Mhm.
muscle memory.
It for sure is. Yeah, no, that's a great analogy because if you have the motions in place, getting to know the partners. Well, first you got to get into be a part of their partner program, right? And have them understand who you are. But once they understand who you are, you got to keep
Right.
educating them. You've got to keep I hate to say it, entertaining them, but going to lunch, going to breakfast, going to whatever it is to connect, doing events, doing webinars, doing the things that you are building that influence within the partner,
Absolutely.
again, to get to the promised land, which is ultimately it's a lead into or introduction into a client that you need to speak with, right? And I think if in terms of I know you're a big believer in metrics, and I am too. Is trust measurable in your opinion, Jeff?
I think it is. You
Yeah.
know, trust, here's the thing, trust is going to show up in the actions that are taken from the things that you do,
Hmm.
right? So that is measurable. And to be able to go back, right? So, and you're going to have to track that, right? So let's face it. And well, look, we don't live in a bubble, and neither do our companies, our solutions, right? So being able to have that multi-touch ecosystem approach and the ability to have attribution to actually
Mm.
the
Hmm.
conversations, I think
Yeah.
is critically important. And then also having a way to manage and track that. You know, what we did a show, we talked about AI, and one of the things, you know, and I'll just throw this in there because we talk about AI, but if you're not using it to help you be more efficient, and this is something that you can do where it's like, how well are you communicating the message? How often are you communicating the message and showing up and doing those things? Being responsive with the information. So yes, you can track those things. Some
Hmm.
some are nuanced, right? So it may not be specifically as a field that you can put into your CRM or PRM system. Uh,
Hmm.
but I definitely think that it is. And like I said, I think the biggest metric that you track is the actions and the attribution that you
Hmm.
get from the things that you're doing.
Yeah, and co-marketing is such a good way to get that real measurement matrix, and also a very good way to connect better to the partner because you're committing time, money, and energy to the partnership, right? And you're doing it through the co-marketing campaigns. Something
Right.
we learned from Will Taylor most recently.
So let me ask you a question, right? And because you know you've had some really great opportunities where you've gone in and built out, you know, this channel process from scratch,
Hmm.
so to speak, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think we were talking. I think that this is going to be a whole nother show, but what would you say was like the top two things or hurdles, challenges when you're trying to get somebody to kind of understand like this is the push? Because look, you've got the mature companies that you've worked at where you already
Hmm.
had teams and they had a process and you got to go in and figure that out. And then you got these over here, which are like, you know, greenfield, right? They're just like, hey, hey, we want to be in the channel. And they think they just walk in and it's a little light switch. It's turning on and you're like, ta-da, channel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What first and foremost, you have to go in and promote your vendor program as either 100% channel or channel first. Channel first is a little deceiving because it means you may go direct if you have an opportunity.
Right.
100% channel opens eyes, opens ears, gets doors open for you because if you're committed to 100% channel, everything that comes in is a direct opportunity to bring to a partner, right?
Right.
The other thing I would say in building program, building influence and building just mind share, um, education, enablement.
Mm.
You know how I feel about that. You do little things. You can run email campaigns where you are just giving updates on what your product has done or what your company's done, and just news on what's going on within your space, right? Setting up virtual coffee meetings or going out and actually having coffee with a partner, breakfast, lunch, whatever it is,
Yep.
and just shooting the shit and having them understand what it is you're doing, what the company's doing, and how it's doing it. Right?
Right.
No push for like I need a deal. You go set up a meeting like that and sit down and say I need an opportunity. Get me into this client. Immediately you're going to be zeroed out. They're gonna shut down and not want to work with you because you're not really doing the things that the partnership really requires. It's
Absolutely.
not just give me a deal. You're not an AT. They're not an ATM machine. You've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
Sales rep thinks partners are ATM machines, and they are the ones that get them the opportunities. They're like, there's a little work on your side there, buddy. And
Absolutely. Man.
I
Absolutely.
remember asking Mitch that question, like, what does a good sales rep look like that understands the channel and uses it the right proper way? And I think his first thing was, they get up every day driven to make money, and they understand what it takes to make money, and they understand what it takes to get to that opportunity to close it, right? And a partner is a part of that process. It's not you are the ones to get us in there and close the deal. They know the influence is there, right? Those superstar reps that get it, they have Nearbound built into their DNA without even knowing it because they understand that.
Yeah. Well, like
You
I
know.
when we first talked about it, when you sent me the book, I mean, going back that to over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, almost now, uh,
Hmm.
I didn't realize that I was doing it, right? And to your
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
so if I take first of all, great answer, and I agree. I almost wanna kinda put a nuance because it depends on the age of where you're at, right, in the maturity of the program. Because, if you're over here, you don't even have a program. It's more about how do you develop that motion and then how do you get people to
yeah,
buy into it.
yeah,
I'll say this. I think, expectations and patience are the two biggest challenges that I see, right? So
yeah,
setting the
for
right
sure.
expectations about how long it's going to take to get to where you want to be and where you think you can be,
Yep.
and then having the patience for that. And I think that, like you just said, the cash register, people walk in like, hey, man, let's go, give me some deals or whatever. You know, I used
So
to think,
let me just use an analogy quickly for
oh,
your
no,
patients.
yeah,
Do you plant a seed and a tree grows the next day? It doesn't happen, right? You don't plant a garden and it grows in 2 days. It takes time. You're planting a garden with partnerships,
you're right.
right?
You're right.
And if you want really good fruit and vegetables and yield really good quality, edible, fruit and vegetables, you put the time in, you
That's
fertilize, you water, you take the care, and you don't expect it to like, produce a tomato in 2 days,
I
so
absolutely love that analogy, man. Because the fact
mhm.
that you're nurturing something that's bearing fruit and then
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
bearing fruit or vegetables, right? Tomato. Well, that's an argument we could have on the show. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
but
for sure.
no, no, dude, I totally agree. You know what I think ruined it, John, in your plant analogy? But adding the fact that you're growing something that is going to bear fruit or vegetables or something, some kind of output, the chia pet. The chia pet ruined it for people,
Oh
bro,
god.
because that shit would grow so
'Cause that's an
quickly.
instant, it grows hair, the
Right?
second day, right?
And most people are here like, what? Google it.
We're not
It
growing chia pets here. We're growing gardens that yield fruit. In other words, revenue. Chia pet's a cheap toy.
I don't even know if they're still
It's
around.
a bad Christmas gift, by the way. Don't ever get me a Christmas gift as a chia pet. Yeah,
Well, but that's what I'm saying. If there's, I don't even know if they're still around, but if somebody wants to look it up, then they'll go, oh, I get it now. Because it was just a cheap way to grow something. I mean, it was kind of silly. But my point is, your analogy is spot on. And I've always used to use, it's like, are you married? You have a wife? Yeah. So, when you were dating, did you like first date? Let's get married, man. Let's do this. You would freak people out.
yes,
So
yeah.
it's
Creepy
kind
people are,
of
unless you really got, if both of them had the bada bing and felt like they couldn't be without each other. But it
you know
doesn't
what?
work that way in
You know what?
partnerships. It
Like,
does not work that
oh, oh, you're as rich as Warren Buffett? Sure. But no,
way.
getting back so man, the wheels just came off this wagon. Um, no, but getting back to your point, right? It's 100% agree. And I think your two challenges, like I said, the challenges are real. And that's why I said mine are really about setting expectations and making sure that the people trying to work the deals just have patience and know that you're
Yep.
trying to build something that is, to your point, it's going to be lasting. And I love that growing a plant analogy, because you are, and you got to nurture it and you got to be there. And you're not going to see the results as quickly as you would like to see them, but when it does come, it's going to be great. So,
Yeah.
and I think we get back to the main term here, which is, this whole influenced market approach, right? And that's where I see really where this is, where Nearbound kind of falls in line,
Yeah.
which it is about influence. It's about having the right people, having the right vendors, having the right peers, and being able to, get that introduction. I think they said it. Omedia just put it out. Jay McBain's group. It's down a little bit from 7 to like 6.3. Um,
Mm,
don't be that point 0.3 guy. That's all I can tell you. Don't be the point.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
no,
Well,
it's
what about influence telemetry? What do you think about, influence telemetry becomes like that new currency, and what do you do to get there? Is it a source deal or is it a, influence deal? Um, I'm a big believer in source deals. I think they're very important, but I don't want to be the one always giving the deals. I want it like a 50-50 split. But how do you define the influence telemetry?
I'm like a 2-for-1 kind of guy. I've
Mm.
always believed if you're going to give somebody something, it should come back twofold, right?
Hmm.
For every deal
Yeah.
that I would want to give, I would hopefully want to get two back because they see the value of it. Which, by the way, also comes into the conversations and the presentation and how you articulate that to people and say, hey, like, here's what we do. Let me show you. Here's what it is. Here's how it works. Here's the problem
Hmm.
it solves, and
Yeah.
here's the benefits. And by the way, the getting paid and all that. I mean, it's yes, I get it. We all want to get paid, but it is the byproduct. Um, and I do think it's kind of it's tough because, like you said, you have sourced and you have influence,
Yeah.
and getting the sourced opportunities from partners, I think that comes with time because you've got to build that. So
When the garden is grown.
right,
Yes.
and as you're taking opportunities and you're presenting them to the partners to help
Yeah.
build that, that's part of the trust building process, right?
Yeah.
Because just let's face it, the paradigm shift. I mean, it shifted pretty much almost 180 degrees from where it was 10, 15 years ago in the channel.
Sure.
Um, I'll go back even a little bit further. I mean, I remember back in the early 2000s, man. Like, if you wanted to be a partner, you had to pay to be a partner.
Yeah.
When we had our partnership with Oracle, I'm gonna say I think it was 20,000, 25,000 a year or something like,
Hmm.
which is
Well, that's still present in some partnerships.
yeah, but
Sure.
what you're seeing is partner like people just kind of like, you know what? Plenty of other opportunities. And again, Oracle being that database, and all that. I mean, now they have the business solutions. It was tough, but I agree. It's still there. It's not as prevalent. Like most of it is, let's do this because it's the right thing to do. And because to your point, right, we're going to give you this portal. We're going to give you this program. We're going to give you, we have all these things to help enable you to go sell, to have good conversations, to understand the problem, the solution, and the outcomes so that you can basically be doing this 80% on your own, almost 100% for some of the stuff, which is great. I know a lot of people are like,
Mhm.
nope, I want to be involved in a deal. And I've always believed that if you can enable your partner to sell without you, that's where you really get the flywheel because all of a sudden
Win, win, win.
they're bringing you, they're bringing you
Yeah.
things and saying, "Hey, we've got an opportunity at X, Y, Z." That's where you want to get to. I've seen it. Like I've loved what GuidePoint has done with their program. Optiv is refreshing their whole program, and they're enabling. They all carry a lot of solutions, man. But they understand. They have people. They have the infrastructure now that are helping to manage those. Those OEM vendors and the technology aspect as well, which is super great. And I don't mean to just call those two out. I think CDW has a great program. Uh,
Hmm.
Nexum, there's a couple. I think XSIT is really exploded recently in the Mid Atlantic. I think
Are they a pay to play now?
that's a great question. I don't know, but
Mm.
I've always liked, you know, they're good brands, and that's what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of good partners. The E Plus, the Presidios, like there's like 50, I think, depending on what
Yeah.
you're doing. By the way,
Hmm.
they all play differently in certain things. Like if we were going after hyperscalers, there's a certain set of partners you want to work with. If we're going after specific verticals in the oil and gas, there's certain partners you want to work with. If after
Mm-hmm.
healthcare, pharmaceutical type stuff, there's certain partners, like that have a practice. And you could just tell, like, if you can get to them and work with them, it's gonna be great. And that's where the influence comes from. Why? Because they've already established themselves in the market, in the vertical, as being, having the subject matter expertise to deliver within that. Like I'm seeing a
Yeah.
big explosion in the CMMC arena right now. I mean, it's huge because the everything went into effect back in July. So now everybody has to get through their if they haven't done the level 1 readiness, they got to do it. If they're supposed to be level 2,
Mm.
got to do it because now the clock is
Yeah.
ticking, or they're going
Yeah.
to lose access to their contracts. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but anyway, I
Yeah,
don't.
no, that's good stuff. And then there's like all sorts of tools to measure it. We talk ad nauseum about PRMs. I think those are probably the greatest way to connect partners and vendors together. And there's also behavior, that you can measure, but also AI now has come in and helped, make your job easier by the tools that you could utilize to kind of hone in and really be disciplined in your, your influence telemetry, right?
That's
But let's just shift gears a little bit because we're coming up on the top of our show here.
for sure.
What about practical execution models? I
Mm.
think there's one thing that sticks out in my mind that I've done, and I know you do it as well, and that's defining a one trust behavior each quarter that you
Yeah.
co-manage with a partner, right? Sit down in the beginning of the quarter and talk about what it is you want, your goals, what your strategies, everything, and then define one goal you can each go, accomplish together.
It's funny. I kind of threw that in the beginning. I was talking about that because, and it's where I've been kind of combining the Nearbound and then also the book by Stephen Covey Jr., The Speed of Trust, right? So, but that's what I was saying. Like you really should define something. Like what is it? What is that? What is it that you're trying that you want to focus on and do? Because let's face it, if you don't pick something to focus on and then track it to see, how you're actually tracking towards what you're trying to do, you're never going
Mm-hmm.
to know if you're being successful, And like,
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
first of all, let's just take a half step back. There's probably a lot of people that may listen to this and go, I already do that. I already know how to do that. Well, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of people who don't, that don't understand that concept or that approach or methodology. And what it does, like I said, it builds the muscle memory, but it also gives you the ability, let's face it, where do you need to kind of narrow your focus, or to
Mm.
back to your plan analogy, where do you need to prune, right? Some of the
Yeah.
past relationships that
Yeah.
really aren't bringing the value that you would hope they would bring. And as much as you don't want to abandon it or prune it, it's just it's not giving you the benefits that you were hoping for. They're not driving the results that you were hoping for. So, I hate to say it, you got to go focus where the business is. You got to focus where the people are that you have built the trust and they do want to do these
Mm-hmm.
things. So, and,
And
and
keep in mind, it's a sales job. Let's not ever forget that, right? You are a sales rep on a sales team.
absolutely.
Mm.
There's something else I'll just throw in. What's interesting about trust, John, is when you do it and you're genuine and, we'll say authentic, right? But seriously, when you're genuine and being authentic and being upfront and honest with people about where things are, right? Trust compounds when that message is simple and clean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll use the word signal. Kevin Leary uses a lot from when he had worked with Steve Jobs. Like he had ability to sort to this, basically to tone everything out and just focus on the signal. So if your signal and your message is clean, true, honest, and authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and people are going to pick up on it, and
Sure.
people want to
Yeah.
work with good people. That's just my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, right? So it's more than just having the partner. It's about creating that environment where people want to work with you.
I think it also includes experience. If you have experience, it shows. I mean, look, I remember my first real sales job. I had to go into a big, you know, toilet parts company. I won't mention the name, but and I was
Toilet.
toilet. Yeah, they made toilet bowls and sinks and bathtubs and stuff. So,
Well,
and
that's
I was
probably a
handed the
standard thing
account, and
for a
I had
lot
to
of
go in.
people.
What's that?
It's probably a standard thing for a lot of people.
It might be, but anyway, I had to go. I was handed the account. It was my first time. I went from a service rep into a sales role,
Wow.
and I brought my sales engineer, and I was nervous as hell, and I didn't know what I was doing, and the customer could tell, and it was a swing and a miss. And my sales engineer, who was a great guy, really good guy, he pulled me aside afterward, and he's like, "Listen, next time you go into a sales call like that," he goes, "make sure you're prepared. You looked and sounded like a rookie," and he goes, "they get nervous, dealing with people who don't have the experience. So
Yeah.
you build experience as you go, right?" And that taught me something. And I never think of a failure like that as woe is me, I can't do it. I think of it as like a learning lesson. And I'm like, okay,
Amen.
next time I'm going to do it better, right? And it just got better and better from there. So just kind of add on to what you were just saying there, is experience is really important for building this trust, and you get experience as you go.
Amen.
If you're a young, brand new to the channel, manager role, listening to this, just slow down. Like in Hamilton, like smile more and listen, or what is it? Like smile, talk less, smile more. Listen
No,
more.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I was like, I had the under too on that. How many episodes in 26 before John sings? So I won.
Yeah, that was kind of
Yeah.
not a singing thing. Great show,
No,
great play, great soundtrack. But that's a valuable
no,
lesson
absolutely, man.
that you listen to your clients, listen to your partners. Don't overtalk them. Don't think you're the best, smartest guy in the room. Let them think they are the smartest guys in the room, because ultimately you want them to, trust and work with you.
Well, first, John, I mean, you got to fail, bro. You got to.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
failure is part. Look,
Life lesson.
failing is part of learning. That's it.
Yeah.
I've not met anybody who has ever been truly successful who hasn't had failures.
Yeah.
And and by the way, that is the pinnacle learning moment. I used to tell people back when I was managing, I was like, look, you're going to learn more from a failure than from success, because technically when you fail, you're going to pause, you're going to review, you're going to analyze and really dissect what happened and why did you fail so that it doesn't happen again. When you have success, you just keep going. You don't, like, people won't stop. I've learned to actually pause both and be like, okay, why did we win that? Like, what happened there? Like, what did we do right?
Yep.
Well, and all of a sudden you can also see a trend there, but I've just seen over my career where a lot of people they will ignore the wins and just only stop and pause when they fail. But anyway, I think there's knowledge from both. But I'll share something that I don't know exactly who it came from, but because you said experience and I wrote it down just so I'd say it properly. But when you combine knowledge, skills, and experience, okay, that's wisdom. And though
Powerful.
that is a game changer, because when you realize the three of them coming together, that's what wisdom is all about. And being able to make the decision based on those three things. Boom. That's why people say, wow, like so if you take those three and that gives you the ability to act and make the decisions you need to make. But anyway,
totally agree. All right. Closing comments. I know you always have 3 points. Let's hear the Jeff 3 points.
That was my three, man. That was my three.
That was it?
Yeah. Well, look, it is about influence, right? So with when you think about Nearbound, you have to develop the skill. You have to refine your skills. You have knowledge about things, right? And when you take them, they could kind of be combined into what your experience is. But experiences, I think, is also tying in the human interaction things that happen.
Yeah.
That will give you the wisdom of Nearbound to be able to go execute Nearbound, in my opinion.
Totally agree.
And it is something that you can measure and that you can measure. You can design and critique yourself to do those things. So I just tell everybody, look, I mean, just have and I think you just said it in your failure thing, right? Just have a plan. Just have a plan. It doesn't have to be super detailed or exciting, but have a plan that you're trying to follow and execute off of. You'll be more successful.
And you know what? You'll be able to repeat it, and it works every time. If it works once, it's going to work 10 times, right?
60% of the time, it works all the time.
Nice. All right. Well, that was a great topic. I enjoyed it. But it's time to close out the show. And as we normally do, we can talk about how you can reach us. We have our brand new website, channelsurfers.com. You can send us questions or request to be a guest on our show through the website. You can also hear the latest episode on the website. There's a section called the podcast where you can go download one of our podcasts. If you want to reach out to us directly, I'm John at channelsurfers.com and Jeff is Jeff at channelsurfers.com. And then we also have our LinkedIn page where we post every week. We're posting constantly. Jeff does a phenomenal job posting snippets of videos from our most recent.
I'm getting better. I'm getting a little bit better, but I appreciate that.
And each show that posts every Tuesday. So reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We've heard from some guests or heard from some of our audience, and it's nice. We actually had a great conversation with someone who was in our audience this past week. And
oh wow, that was are.
Interesting conversation, right? And they're going to be a guest in a couple of weeks. So so definitely reach out to us. And in the meantime, Jeff, thank you for doing this. This was a great refresh. It's kind of the jumping off point for the rest of the show this year, where we're going to really focus in on like Nearbound, AI, and frameworks that we feel are important for building a channel program.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Until the next time. Take care, Jeff.
Thanks, bud.
See ya.